I just wanted to show how I like to use the website 17lands.com to stay on top of the current limited metagame. So, what 17lands.com is, let's start there, is a website that you can kind of run in the background of your MTG Arena application, and it kind of tracks all of your data. It takes all of the data from all of those users, compiles it into an easy to understand set of data, obviously, that can easily be interpreted to decide what is and isn't working in that limited environment. So, once that's installed, you can do a lot with it. The first thing I like to do is you can look at your own history. So it shows my event history. So this shows every single event that I've ever played in Magic, or in Limited, anyways. Um, there are replays available. I can review the entire draft, so every format, but we're going to narrow it down to Wilds of Eldraine. So you can see your game win percentage and your match win percentage, your trophy percentage. Check out your draft pools, your draft logs, the decks you used, any deck switching you might have done, any sideboarding, um, and your color preferences, which is it's kind of funny to me that I haven't drafted of all the sets in the world. I've never drafted green and blue in this set yet after 6 events. So we'll see if we can change that, or maybe there's a reason we're not uh, drafting green or blue. So we're going to take a look at the data, see what is working, see what isn't working amongst the greater player base. So we'll go over to see what is and isn't working. We'll start with analytics. We're going to go to deck color data, and we'll see the win rate of all of the different color combinations. So this goes all the way from monocolor to straight up 5 color. Generally, the more colors you add to a deck, the lower your win rate is, because obviously you get mana issues and things of that nature. So let's see. For monocolor, mono black is far and away the strongest with a 71% win rate, um, followed by white, followed by red, followed by green. Oh no, yeah, sorry. Followed by green. So it's black, then green, then white, red, and then blue. So this might be why I'm not seeing that many incentives to actually draft blue. So monocolor plus a splash. You see the average win rate of all of the combinations is slightly down, but that's okay. That's still a good win rate. So black with a splash, red with a splash, those are good. Green with a splash, third. White and blue with a splash. So what this tells me, white and blue with a splash are last. What that tells me is white and blue are probably better support colors than they are main colors. Even even green to an extent, but so essentially you don't want to be really heavily white, but white can be good, is what I read from that. Next, we're moving down to the 2 color pairs. This is usually the most important one. This kind of shows which archetypes of the 10 2 color archetypes is the strongest. So currently, it's pretty much a tie between black red and black green. So common denominator is black, and that kind of goes with my initial assessment from that first set of data. So black green and black red are the strongest, followed by what's next? Boros. Yeah, it's still up. That's tied. Okay, so Boros, black red, black green are the strongest, followed by pretty much the rest is pretty similar in the pack there. Blue white seems to be the weakest, but blue black is 54, Gruul is 56, Orzhov 54, Simic 52. So blue green and blue white are the weakest. Izzet is average. Orzhov is average. Gruul is a little above average. So that kind of aligns with my assessment from my personal data, was that blue is kind of weak in this set. um, Interestingly, here's an interesting thing I've found. It's not much, but it is something. Usually, two color plus a splash, the average win rate is lower than just the straight two color. And I think that might have to do with the off color adventures. So, what that tells me is that it might be wise to consider splashing off color adventure cards. So, I think we'll look at this and we'll probably see a similar win rate between those color pairs. Black green, Boros, and red black are still front and center. Izzet gets a little better with splashes, it looks like. Simic also gets a little better with splashes, and that makes sense to me because that's usually like the ramp and fixing color. Blue black gets slightly better. Blue white gets a whole percentage better. So I think still in general, we do want to be avoiding blue. All right, three color. This tends to average out a whole lot more. Jund looks very strong, probably because it's very strong on removal. Naya, okay. So that's still like the black, red, and white colors. Let me see. Asban. I'm surprised given all that. No, Greenland with Mardu. No, wow, Mardu's bad. Below 50% win rate. See, once you get into three colors, it makes it a lot more difficult to win, especially in this format that's not really set up for that. So, in general, I think this tells us that we want to be, in general, we want to be two colors or two colors with a splash. Once we get beyond that three color threshold, it starts to go down quite a bit. So we're looking at four colors, three colors with a splash. Oh, that's kind of interesting, but there's not a lot of data once you get down this far. There's not a lot of games represented, so the numbers can be a lot more wild. So that's always the first thing I look at. It's just what colors are doing well. So now we're going to look at the next set of analytics. And we're going to look at card data. So this is where you can see things like you can sort by all kinds of things. Usually the general metric for like what is good is the game in hand win rate stat over here. So I sorted by that, and we're just going to look. We have Gruff Triplets is the winner. Virtue of Persistence. So Gruff Triplets is the 3/3 that makes other 3/3s. Virtue of Persistence is basically just a removal spell with a a reanimator spell tied to it. Lord Skitter is a problem. Red Cap Gutter Dweller. Okay, yep, the black red rats thing. Those are good. Spellbook Vendor. Imidane's Recruiter. See, now that's really interesting. These are all rares and mythics here. Imidane's Recruiter shows up really high on this list, which that's pretty understandable. Making two vigilant white knights, and then an anthem effect that gives everything haste can be game breaking. That makes sense. And I've noticed myself that I do really like that card. So as you see, lots of rares and mythics in the top ones. Gingerbread Hunter, which one is that? Oh yeah, yep, and a removal spell with a big creature attached to it. You can't really do better than that. So in general, these adventure spells are pretty strong. So what we're going to do now, so this is overall all of the cards. You see a lot of strong cards, obviously, a lot of rares and mythics. We're going to look at the uncommons next. So So we're just going to sort out the uncommon. So top uncommon, Imidane's Recruiter, Gingerbread Hunter, Tough Cookie, Welcome to Sweet Tooth, Witch's Vanity, Monstrous Rage. Really? Oh yeah, no, that one's really good. That does everything all of the decks want to do by creating a roll, and that's actually +3/+1 for 1 mana, which is honestly kind of insane. Ash Party Crasher, very aggressive. I mean, that's a Agatha's Champion is essentially a Flame Tongue Kavu. Solid removal spell. Lord Skitter's Butcher. High Fade Negotiator, the Big Drain. So bargain cards, cards that make tokens, efficient spells. Like, all of these have a similar thing in common, is that they all kind of create card advantage. So this is essentially, it's 2 cards, 2 spells in one, but it's essentially 3 cards in one. Gingerbread Hunter is always a 2-for-1. Almost a 3-for-1 because it creates a food. Tough Cookie creates a food that it can then animate the next turn. So that's a really insane curve. If you're on turn 3, you're attacking with 6 power. So I definitely see why that's there. Welcome to Sweet Tooth. I'm surprised by this one, that it is that strong. It does a lot of little things, but I guess that does add up for 2 mana. Witch's Vanity, same idea. Well, that's a standard removal spell that's really good to have in your opening hand. Combat Trick. This guy, I did like him when he was in my red-white deck. That was kind of the main thing I did with it. I put that out. I was able to reanimate it a bunch of times with the 2-drop reanimation spell. I don't remember his name. So you'll notice we haven't seen, see this high in the uncommons, we haven't seen a blue card yet. We see a lot of green, we see a little bit of white. So mostly we're looking at Jund colors until we get further down. Yep, Greta. So there's a little bit of white. So far the whites are only part of the card. Picnic Ruiner, Royal Treatment. Wow. Fairy Dream Thief. Princess Takes Flight. Shrouded Shepherd, I like a lot. Here's our first blue card. Is Frolicking Familiar. Wow. So what's that, like the 25th card? Wow. Okay. I'm honestly surprised by some of this. So why would we play blue in this set? Picklock Prankster. Okay. Instant sorcery or fairy card. Okay, I see why that's good. But, okay, Hatching Plans. I see why we can take advantage of Hatching Plans in this set. Tattered Ratter, Two-Headed Giant. Spellscorn Coven. Yeah, it's got a little card advantage built in. Wow. Edgewall Inn is better than most blue uncommons. That's insane to me. See, and also we saw most of the signpost uncommons up top. We're just now getting down to the blue-white one. There's one. Yep. Okay, so that's our look at our top uncommons. That looks pretty consistent with what I've experienced in the format so far. Now let's look at commons. Top commons. Torch the Tower. That is no surprise, should be no surprise to anyone. The top common is the red shock variant. Candy Grapple right there with it. So easily, like, not very surprising that. And they both have bargain, which is another thing. They're both very inexpensive, 1 and 2 mana, and they both have bargain. Then we have cut in, which is in the opposite way of bargain. It costs a little more, deals with a few more things, but it creates a token, which goes along with almost every archetype. Hopeless Nightmare. I am surprised that Hopeless Nightmare is this high, though I have found it to be really good. So, flick a coin. Wow, I didn't realize it would be that high. But I am also not surprised. Sweet Tooth Witch, I enjoy. Rat Out, wow. Hamlet Glutton. So we're on black and red for all of the top commons until we get to Hamlet Glutton. So the big Honey Mammoth type card, that makes sense. More red. Edgewall Pack, Harried Spearguard, Ratcatcher Trainee. I really like this one, especially when I found out that adventure on it was an instant. Monstrosity, all of these are solid, but so the top white common is Hopeful Vigil. That doesn't surprise me. That one's been really good. It turns on bargain, makes a dude. Yep. Cooped Up, Feed the Cauldron, Brave the Wilds. All right, so now that gives us the first blue common. Wow. The first blue common. Is it Spellstutter? Did I miss one? No. Into the Fey Court. I'm actually really surprised by this. So that tells me, well, drawing cards is good, but what that kind of says to me is like that big 5 mana deck is what wants this. I don't know, maybe the fairy deck, but I'm having a hard time finding reasons that I would open to even go into blue, which really saddens me because it is my favorite color in Magic. Spellstutter is good. Yeah, the green fight spells. All right, so what else do we have? Gingerbrute, kind of in the middle of the pack. Okay, so here's another stat we want to look at. Improvement when drawn. Into the Fey Court. Improvement when drawn, it goes up. That makes sense. So improvement when drawn is how many percentage points you are likely to win a game when you draw that card. So that makes sense. You don't want it in your opening hand, like opening hand win rate. Harried Spearguard, Torch the Tower, Hopeful Vigil, all these nice 1 and 2 drops. But like Harried Spearguard, its improvement when drawn is 0. Into the Fey Court, Spellstutter, Ice Out, Water Wings. So here's where the blue cards are. So blue can maybe do stuff late in the game, but it's all these interaction spells. Spellstutter, Ice Out, Water Wings. That is interesting. Hopeless Nightmare is just good all the time, it looks like. Okay, so that overall is the basics of what I do to just kind of assess where the metagame is at, what to prioritize, what to avoid. So far, I'm still looking at this, trying to find why, like, what would I see pick 1, pack 1 that'd make me want to pick a blue card? And I'm having trouble seeing it. So I guess that's my hot take for this format is avoid blue. But that might shift in a couple weeks too. Once people figure out what is good and what is working, those cards become harder to get. And then you have to make do with what's left, which means you have to figure out what does work the best in those less desirable colors or color pairs. So I say from there, we go ahead and do a little draft and see if we can put some of this new knowledge in action. All right, so we'll fire up our arena here and see what happens. I think I'm just going to do a Premier draft this time. I've been trying to stick with best of 3 for Vegas Open practice, but there we go. But I'll go ahead and do a Premier draft just because that's the most digestible format. All right. Let's fire this up. I played on MTGO yesterday and it took like 30 minutes to fill the queue. That's one thing I don't miss about MTGO. I like being able to sell the cards that I opened. All right, blue-red Griffin Airy, Ashiok's Reaper, Ginger Brute. So, Hopeless Nightmare, as we've seen, is killer. Conceited Witch is really good.